Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something that seems simple but really isn't. Residential fencing. Specifically, we're doing a deep dive into fencing in Cheyenne, Wyoming, because, well, putting up a fence there is a whole different ballgame.
It really is. A fence is always about security, looks, privacy, the usual things.
Yeah.
But in Cheyenne, you have got to add Wyoming weather to the top of that list. It's unpredictable, it's harsh, lots of wind. So yeah, it's a long-term investment, not just sticking some posts in the ground. It needs to be tough.
Right. And to help us figure this out, we've been looking at materials from Swine Fence and Supply. They're based right there in Cheyenne, locally owned. We'll talk about what they offer, but maybe more importantly, we need to get into their warnings for homeowners. They seem pretty serious about quality.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Think about why you even want a fence. Security, curb appeal, privacy, keeping the dog in. None of that works if the fence blows over or falls apart after a couple of rough winters. Durability, especially against that wind, has to come first.
Okay, so let's unpack the materials then. What options do people actually have in a place like Cheyenne? The sources talk about wood fences first, mentioning that traditional look of Wyoming. Sounds nice, but I sense a but coming.
Oh, absolutely, there's a but. Wood looks fantastic, no doubt, very classic. But for it to last in that climate, you need absolutely top quality wood and, maybe even more critical, truly expert installation. Because the biggest enemy isn't just rot, it's the ground itself.
What do you mean? The ground.
Frost heave. Cheyenne has a pretty deep frost line, meaning the ground freezes down to a certain depth in winter. If your fence posts aren't set way down below that line, with concrete, the freezing and thawing cycle literally jacks the posts up out of the ground. Your fence goes crooked, wood twists, the whole structure fails. Some bite pretty quickly.
Wow. Okay, so expert installation for wood isn't just about making it look straight initially, it's about physics.
Exactly. It's structural integrity from below the ground up.
Yeah.
Which, is why lots of folks look at other options. Less worry. Like vinyl fences, the sources say they're popular for privacy, often come with lifetime warranties, and basically need zero maintenance. Vinyl handles those temperature swings and moisture really well, doesn't warp or crack like wood can under pressure.
Makes sense. And for looks, but still low maintenance.
That's where aluminum fences come in. They pitch it as unmatched beauty and elegance, again with that maintenance-free lifetime care promise. You get that nice ornamental look, kind of like wrought iron, but aluminum doesn't rust. Big plus in wet or snowy conditions.
Right, rust would be a constant battle otherwise.
And then there's the old standby, chain link. It's popular mostly because it's pretty low cost and easy to maintain. Good for homes, good for businesses. Doesn't give you privacy, obviously, but for just marking a boundary or keeping pets in, it's solid. And the wind goes right through it, so it holds up well structurally in storms.
So boiling it down, it sounds like a trade-off. You can get the traditional wood look, but you accept higher risk and maintenance unless the install is absolutely perfect. Or you go for vinyl, aluminum, or chain link for more durability and less hassle, but maybe a different aesthetic.
That's pretty much it. You're matching the material's strengths, like vinyl's moisture resistance, against Wyoming's specific challenges.
Yeah.
Thinking about, how much snow piles up against it or if you have large animals pushing on it. That local factor is key.
Okay, that idea of local factors brings us to the next big warning in the source material. This one really jumped out at me. It says, the cheapest fence is often the most expensive. Let's unpack that. Why wouldn't the cheapest option be, well, cheaper, especially if you might move soon?
Yeah, it feels counterintuitive, but it's a trap. Focusing only on the lowest upfront price almost always means you're getting low-quality materials. Thinner metal, weaker wood, flimsy hardware. Stuff that just won't stand up to Cheyenne winds or, kids climbing on it, whatever. When it fails, and it probably will, sooner rather than later, you're not just patching a small spot. You're replacing entire sections.
Yeah.
Or the whole fence.
So the expensive part comes from repairs and having to replace it much sooner than you expected?
Exactly. It becomes this recurring headache and cost. A good fence, done right, it's an asset that lasts. A cheap fence is often just liability waiting to happen.
Okay, that makes sense. But here's the part that really surprised me in the sources. They say the installer is the biggest risk, even more than the weather. How can a person be riskier than Wyoming wind?
It's about accountability, really. The fencing world, unfortunately, attracts some. Let's call them non-professional laborers, guys who might show up with a truck, offer a super low price, do a quick, shoddy job, and then they're gone. Maybe they move on to the next town, maybe they just disappear, and when they vanish, you're left holding the bag with some serious risks.
Okay, let's break those risks down. What happens to the homeowner when that cheap crew is gone?
Well, first, forget about warranties. Any promise they made about their workmanship, worthless. They're not there to honor it. And here's the kicker. If they installed the materials wrong, as they didn't use the right concrete mix or didn't space post correctly for wind load the manufacture of a vinyl or aluminum, they can void their warranty too.
Seriously. So your lifetime material warranty could be gone just because the installer cut corners.
Yep, because it wasn't installed to spec. So warranty protection evaporates.
Yeah.
Then there's the immediate stuff, property damage.
Like sloppy work.
Exactly. Concrete splashed on your driveway, maybe even your car. Deep ruts in your lawn from their trucks that you now have to fix. Damaged sprinkler heads, broken landscape lights. It happens all the time with untrained, careless crews. And good luck getting them to pay for it once they've cashed your check and left.
Okay, that's bad enough. But you mentioned liability. That sounds worse.
It is. This is the big one. If you hire someone who isn't properly licensed and insured, and they get hurt on your property, let's say they fall off a ladder or cut themselves badly, you, the homeowner, could be held personally liable for their medical bills, their lost wages, everything.
Wow.
And your homeowner's insurance might wash their hands of it, saying you knowingly hired an unqualified, uninsured contractor. It could be financially devastating.
Wow. That risk alone seems like it would outweigh any savings up front.
It absolutely should, which is why dealing with a professional, established company is so crucial. They have rigorous training, supervisors checking the work, and critically, they are fully licensed and insured. Protects them, protects you. The sources point out things like being members of the American Fence Association, the AFA. That means they adhere to industry best practices, ethical standards. It's accountability.
So professionalism isn't just about a nice truck and a logo. It's about insurance, training, standards, and actually being findable if something goes wrong.
Precisely. They have a local address, like Swy Fence's spot on Fox Farm Road. They're part of the community. They have a reputation they need to protect. They aren't going to just disappear.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We've talked risk. Let's talk about the value of local knowledge and maybe some modern conveniences. How much does that knowing Cheyenne factor really matter?
Oh, it's huge. It's not just about the wind. It's about the soil. Is it rocky here, sandy there? Where does water pool after a big rain or snowmelt? Local crews know the ins and outs, as the source puts it. They know which side of a hill gets the worst wind. They know the exact post depth and anchoring technique needed for that specific area. That knowledge is like an insurance policy built into the fence. They're your neighbors. They want the fence to last too.
That makes sense. But dealing with contractors, getting quotes, it can feel a bit overwhelming sometimes, right? Planning it all out. The sources mentioned something that sounds pretty helpful here, an instant online quote tool. How does that work?
Yeah, this is pretty cool, actually. It takes a lot of the initial guesswork and pressure out. You basically go online, pull up a satellite map of your house, your property, and you draw where you want the fence to go. Does that be perfect? Just sketch the line. And you can click through different styles, wood, vinyl, aluminum, maybe different heights, and it gives you real-time current price estimates instantly.
So you can compare, say, the cost of a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence versus a 4-foot aluminum one for your actual yard without even talking to anyone yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All in like 5 minutes. It lets you play around with options, figure out your budget, get informed before you even schedule a consultation. It makes the whole process much more transparent and, frankly, less intimidating.
That sounds incredibly useful. Okay, one last piece here, focusing on function. Gates. The sources really stress not overlooking the gate. Why is it so critical?
Because it's the only moving part, really, and it gets used constantly. It takes the most wear and tear. A cheap gate or one installed poorly on a weak post, it's going to sag, it's going to stick, it's going to fail long before the rest of the fence. And beyond just a sturdy gate, they highlight automatic gate operators.
Ah, the push-button convenience. Why is that especially relevant in a place like Cheyenne?
Well, think about it. It's snowing sideways, the wind's howling, it's 10 degrees out. Do you really want to get out of your warm car, trudge through the snow, wrestle with a potentially frozen gate latch, open it, drive through, get out again, close it? The sources basically say the first time you don't have to do that because you have an automatic opener, you'll know it was worth it. It's security, it's convenience, and in that weather, it's almost a necessity.
Good point. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up.
Sure. I think this deep dive really shows that getting a fence in Cheyenne isn't just buying a product. It's an investment in managing risk. That means focusing on professional installation by people who know the local ground and weather, using materials that are genuinely up to the challenge, and understanding the techniques needed to make it last. skimping on any of that,
Yeah.
especially on the installer's qualifications, is just asking for expensive problems down the road.
Right. So the big takeaway for you, the listener, seems clear. Do your homework. Check licenses. Check insurance. Don't let the lowest price be your only guide. Use the tools available now, like those online quote systems, to understand your options without pressure. And make sure the company installing it is legitimate, local, and insured. And that brings us to our final thought for you to consider. We've talked a lot about the liability you could face if an uninsured worker gets hurt installing your fence. It makes you wonder if that level of personal risk exists for a fence project, what hidden financial dangers might be lurking in other major home improvements? Think about roofing or maybe electrical work or foundation repairs. How crucial is verifying licenses and insurance in those jobs to protect yourself and your home? Something to think about.